Shabbat Shalom, family. Glory and honor to our Father Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth, the most high, of which there is none other, Father of Messiah, Yahweh Shah, and the salvation of the earth and of his people, Israel. Glory and honor to the name of Father Yahweh. And the aforementioned Messiah, Yahweh Shah, who is one with the Father in purpose, one with the Father in spirit, one with the Father in perfection of righteousness and justice, who is our high priest to take sin off of us and seal us in the Father's spirit of eternal righteousness and truth. Glory and honor to Messiah Yahweh Shah. Glory and honor, double honor to the Father Yahweh. Greetings to the 12 tribes, the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name was changed to Yasha'al. Greetings. Greetings to the 144,000 among the bloodline, chosen as forerunners from before they were born, to be forerunners of the kingdom of Messiah, which he will receive and he will deliver to Father Yahweh. Greetings. Greetings to the precious ones, those who obtain salvation, not because they're of the blood, but by the blood of Messiah, Yahweh Shah. Those who obtain salvation, that was destined for Israel, but though they are not bloodline to Israel, have received salvation from the nations, that is the children of Yafet, the children of Ham, and the children of Shem, who are not the bloodline, but have received salvation through the perfect righteousness offered in the faith of Messiah. Greetings. Greetings to the chat. Psalm 119, my brother Yakoba ben Israel, my brother Akawan Banya, my brother Gary Joseph, my sister Isha Shama, known as Josephine M, and my brothers Gary Joseph Superstar, my brother Wade, Diamond Holdings, Ricky Boy 144, brother Castle King, Yafi, Manny, my brother Don Hines, brother Naviska 23, and Stephen Kelly. Greetings to all of you as we are now looking at prophecy. Just wanted to, I don't know, I was looking at, I got a notice from YouTube that last night's study was removed. So I looked at YouTube and saw the study there. So I don't know what happened, but they got, and I figured it out. Initially, I had put up a thumbnail of George Floyd being murdered by Chauvin. If you recall, the whole world saw Chauvin with his knee on Floyd's neck and choking him to death. And I had put that as the thumbnail last night. And boom, immediately it was a violation of YouTube's policy. I think it was for violence or something like that. So last night, right before the study, I changed the thumbnail to show you, a group of Hebrews in a group. And that's I just did that last second because they seem to have issue with that. So then I got an email, we have removed your content. And I went and I looked, and the content was still there. I think it was just the thumbnail that caused the disturbance. But it's to me, I look at this as a warning, not from YouTube particular, but from the Most High particular, because we won't always have these forums to present the word. And basically is what Gil Scott Heron said almost 50 years ago. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. And so as the Father's Spirit is coming upon us, as we are seeking, and this goes to show you, brethren, I mean, who am I? I'm just a guy, on YouTube. But it just goes to show you the importance of the message. As I've been saying to y'all, please, again, read your Bible. It is the word of the Father. It is the bread that you need to eat that Father's going to cause you to repeat to the people that need to hear it. Just like you, there are people that have been predestined to be in the kingdom. And the Father has ordained that through Messiah, you, as well as me, would give the word to those people. Okay? And so some of them don't know that they've been predestined, just like you didn't know and I didn't know until the Father shows us. So read your Bible, start in Genesis, and I'm not just talking about casually read, although you could do that if you want to, but I'm just saying start in Genesis, go through the Revelation, take your time, read it through. It'll take you a year, sometimes two, read it through. And remember, it's a spiritual exercise. Just as the Father told Ezekiel to eat his word, just as he told John to eat his word, he's telling us to eat his word. Because as Ezekiel and as John, we both, all of us, have a message that the Father would have us bear, which is his word. Okay? Messiah said, I am the bread of life. He must eat my flesh and drink my blood. What he's talking about, and he said, this is spirit. He's talking about the word. So this is a spiritual exercise that we're talking about. And to pray to your Father for his spirit, the same spirit that rested on Messiah when he was baptized is the same spirit that the Father is looking to seal his 144,000. So please pray to your Father for his spirit, your heavenly Father, the Father of fathers, and read his word. And that's what I've been telling you. And the reason, of course, is, again, we won't always have this forum. There'll be other forums, and then they'll go away. Eventually, it's going to be you and the Father's Spirit in the street. Eventually, it's going to be you and the Father's Spirit in the street. And that's not unlike John the Baptist. John the Baptist was in the wilderness. Messiah was in the street. Messiah was in the synagogue. Messiah was in the wilderness. Okay? He told Jeremiah, go to the temple and tell Israel this. Of course, they tried to kill Jeremiah. And Jeremiah had to go into the wilderness. He told Elijah, go into Ahab's court and tell them there'll be no rain until we say so. And he went into the wilderness and said, I prepared the ravens. I prepared a widow to feed you. So, brethren, it hasn't changed. It's going to come down to that. And it's okay, because as Moses, as Elijah, as Jeremiah, as John the Baptist, and as Messiah himself, as Paul, brethren, the Father will not have us go anywhere or do anything that the Father himself with the angels don't prepare us for. You will never be sent into battle untrained. Okay? You will never be sent into battle unprepared. If the Father sends you into battle of this spiritual war, he will prepare you for the battle. And he will make sure that before anything comes at you, you will be prepared. Okay? He will never let you go out unprepared. Because part of the reason we can call the Father the Alpha and Omega, and he can call Messiah the Alpha and Omega, is because the Father lets Messiah know everything that's coming, and Messiah lets us know everything that's coming. So that he will not send us on a path that he doesn't already know what the end result is. He will always send us on the path that he already knows what the end result is, and he already knows that we prepared, because he's the one that teaches and prepares us. So don't worry, brethren, just study. Study and pray. Pray for the Spirit, pray for wisdom, and Father God will guide us all the way through. We praise the Most High for that. Okay, so like I said, last night was just, to me, it was a warning from YouTube, but it was also a spiritual warning, letting me know what time it is. You see what I'm saying? Letting me know, letting you know what time it is. That's what this is about. And it was the Father. It's interesting, brethren. I've been doing studies from 2004, first as a Christian. And then around 2012, 2013, I say 2013, it started shifting as I awakened and took my stand as an awakened Hebrew. It started changing. My channel changed and a whole bunch of people left, and then others started coming in. But it was when I started, the Most High had me start talking about the New York Knicks. And that's when it blew up. It blew up. And a lot of y'all have come to this side of the channel from first listening to Nick content, right? And so I remember I had a couple of women and sisters, please don't catch yourself trying to rebuke a male, especially a Hebrew. Don't do it. And that's what I had to tell them. Don't come in here talking to me about sports like you know what you're talking about, especially since the Father has ordained that I do it. Okay. So, and let me just explain to you this. The Heavenly Father, okay? The Heavenly Father is all powerful. He is power. Okay, really. You have to understand he is power. So something like sports is just a little game, little tool for him. He'll wipe it away when it's ready. In the meantime, he just used it. You understand? In the meantime, he just used it. And we don't, oh, right, Brother Manny said, you don't always understand what he does. But I'm telling you, I felt it. It was in the summer about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I felt it very strongly, and I got on there. And I said, let me just say, and I wasn't expecting nothing, really. I just said, let me just express my opinion about the New York Knicks. Because some of these guys, and I was getting tired of some of these people on these big platforms. And I could tell they had no idea about basketball, and they had no idea about the New York Knicks. And then I realized it was just a setup for entertainment purposes. So I said, man, let me just speak something real, right? And all of a sudden, all these people started coming. I was even shocked. You know, I was still shocked, to be honest with you. But then I realized, as I look back, I realized what the purpose was, what's going on here. And I said, man, because when I was a Christian, I don't know y'all if any of y'all been Christians in any of the denominations for any period of time, but what I would notice is there was mostly females in the Christian churches. And it got so bad that the churches that I saw, they started ordaining females as elders, which I knew was a direct contradiction to the word. And they were trying to manipulate the word to justify it. You can't justify it. You can't justify that the Bible says the man is made in the image of the Most High and the woman was made in the image of man. You can't I don't care how much Paul you try to twist. And I knew that was wrong. And so I would oftentimes say, where are the men? And then I found myself separating from the established SDA church and still calling myself a Christian. And I would invite speakers to do evangelistic series. I would invite them. I would put most of the money up and we would have them. And again, women would come from all over the country. Women would come. And you hardly seen any men. And I was getting frustrated. And I prayed, Father, you said you're going to have some men. The 144,000 are men. And I, to the point where women were telling me, no, women 144,000 too. And I was like, no. And I prayed. And then when I started the Knicks content, that's where all you brothers was. When I started this content, brothers started coming out. And the Most High gave me a dream. The Most High gave me a dream, right? And in the dream, I'm in New York. I'm in the New York area, and it's looked like around 138th Street. Y'all know if you're from Manhattan or you know Manhattan. 138th Street is where City College is. And City College got these, in the entrance of City College, y'all know they got these big stone entrance walls, like, college type thing. And I remember in the dream, I was in a place where they was like that. It was like City College, and I had this building, and all of these men were coming into the building because I was about to speak. And then I turned, and this brother was dressed like a general, and he was giving testimony about the message, how the message has blessed him and changed him. And that was the dream. And then the Most High gave me this thing with the Knicks. And then all of a sudden, all of these brothers started coming. And I said, that's where you rascals was. Y'all was hiding, looking for the Knicks. So I praised the Most High. And then I realized later what all this was about, man. So I praise the Most High for calling y'all the way he has called y'all. And now you yourself can bear witness how he has called you and what he's doing. You know, like John said, I'm not the bridegroom. I'm like the best man or one of the people in the wedding party. And once I hand you over to the bridegroom, that's where you go, right? You with the bridegroom and with the father, and he got you, right? So that's what's going on now. We are being prepared. The day's going to come when we won't have these platforms. It's going to be on the street. And I'm going to tell you right now, the power of the Father will be present. It's just like it was with John the Baptist. John the Baptist did not have internet. John the Baptist did not have YouTube. John the Baptist didn't have email. John the Baptist did not have social media. John the Baptist had the fullness of the Father's Spirit. And people came out to the wilderness, everybody, to hear him and to be baptized. That power will be present again. And y'all are going to have it. And I'm praising the Most High for it. Just keep reading, keep praying. Depend on the Father. Remember, the preparation is of him. The willingness to be prepared is of us. The choice is ours to decide to allow the fathers to prepare us and the Messiah to prepare us. But the preparation, once we decide, yes, Father, you can use me whatever way you want. You can send me wherever you want to send me. That's what Isaiah said. Here I am, send me. When you get that attitude and you're ready now, the preparation is of the Father, and he's going to prepare you, and he's going to have you ready. Don't worry. He's going to have you ready, and he's going to have me ready, and we'll be able to face whatever he sends us to face because he's got the road already ahead of us, already planned, and we praise the Most High, and we know already how this is going to end up. Okay, so praise the Most High. So today we're continuing our study. And in a way, it's interesting. We're looking at the book of Revelation. We're looking at chapter 13. And brethren, I'm trying to convey to y'all, this is not Christianity, where Christianity is a philosophy. That's what it is. Okay. And so is Islam. So is Judaism. They're all religious philosophies. The difference between what we're talking about and them is we're looking at our history and our future. That's the difference. See, when you are awakened and you look at the book of Deuteronomy, you know, and I know, we're looking at our history and our future. Okay, that's what we're looking at. So when you're looking at the book of Revelation, you're looking at your history and you're looking at your future. Your future. This is no philosophy. It's a roadmap. Okay. We just started, Mark. You wouldn't miss nothing. Praise the Most High. And then whatever you did miss, you know, you can go back and catch it on the replay. But we just started. So praise the Most High. But yeah. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at our future. The Most High is showing us what is going on and what's about to happen. Okay. And as you know, if I said this statement, if I say, they say history is prologue. What does that mean? That means what, as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. What you have already seen, what you've already experienced, you're going to see and experience in the future. It might be in a modern form, but it's the same thing. See? So as a people, we were delivered from Egypt. Well, as a people, we're going to be delivered from the worldwide system of Babylon. And as a people, Egypt had our Hebrew fathers enslaved, and they had them manipulated was not the word, manipulated too, but it was enslaved and exploited. They had us enslaved and exploited. Well, I think you can see modern Babylon has us enslaved and exploited. And the Father plainly says in multiple prophets, as that, so he will deliver us from this. Okay. And so that's where we're at. And that's what we're studying. Now, today, before we're going into Revelation 13, and again, it's an extremely important chapter. But before we go into it, I want to get deeper into the bottomless pit. No pun intended. But I want to get deeper into this subject of the bottomless pit. And why? Because, first of all, it was to me a great mystery. And again, what I have learned, brethren, and this is another study tip. Number one, when you're not sure about what something means, you know by now, what you do not do is guess. Okay, do not guess. Just say you don't know. It's okay, right? Just guess. Don't guess. Don't guess. So, what you want to do though is you want to study what the Bible says in its entirety on this subject. And understanding what the Bible says in its entirety. So you look through all that the Bible says on this subject. Get a good grasp of, as you said, as we said, the Bible said 2 or 3 witnesses or more on the subject. And then this is the hardest part. You must receive what it's saying. See, for me, the SDA church was guessing. And they were depending on the word of Ellen White to know what the bottomless pit was. It always bothered me because I wanted more Bible. It always bothered me. I wanted more Bible. And I never got it. I just kind of received that because I thought, well, I was in the truth with this denomination. But praying to the Father and telling him, I don't understand this. Can you help me with your spirit? The Father always knows, but he will give us the knowledge, listen carefully, as we're able to handle it. You see, the Bible tells us that you should not let a novice or an early learner or somebody too young be a teacher because it said they could get puffed up. See, that's what happens when you're not ready to handle it. You can get puffed up. And Paul himself, if you recall, the Bible says he received a thorn in the flesh because he received so many revelations, he might get puffed up. And so and the Messiah told the disciples, he said, I have other things to tell you, but you're not ready for it now. And we as students, and all of us, brethren, that's why the Bible doesn't call us Christians. It called us disciples. It said the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. That's exactly what it says. It says the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. And the Edomite Agrippa called Paul a Christian. And the Hebrew Kapha told the Hebrews, don't be ashamed if they call you a Christian. In other words, you receive that, as an honor because of persecution. But they were all, and we are all disciples. Why is that important? A disciple is a student of a teacher. You hear what I'm saying? So as a disciple, we are students of a teacher. Who's the teacher? Messiah is the teacher. He's the rabbi that the Father sent. So we are his students. All of us are his students. And we're always going to be his students. Okay? So when you're a student, reason you're a student is you're learning. And you're learning because you previously didn't know. Does that make sense, brother? So you didn't know, so you're a student, so you learn. Problem is, there's a lot of people today that are not students. They're trying to be teachers without having been students and refuse to be students. Okay? But we must be disciples. We are students of the Messiah. He is the rabbi, and we are students of the rabbi. Okay? That's why Miriam said Rabboni, that is rabbi, teacher. Master means teacher or rabbi. That's what they call Messiah the master. He's the teacher. He's telling you, he's the son of Yahweh, the son of God. And he's telling you from Father what the word is. Okay? So we are all students. And so when as students, we looking into the Father's word and let the Spirit teach us whatever it is we want to learn. So now, bottomless pit. We need to look at this closely. Now, as my study, I'm going to go through these witnesses with you because the bottomless pit has kind of a dual meaning depending on its context. And you know, and I know, in any situation, context matters. What I mean by context, that means what the situation you're using this term. What is the situation in which you're utilizing this term, right? So you have to see what is that situation which you're utilizing the term context. So let me give you a worldly example so you might, some sort of parabolic type of example so you might understand. So if a guy is walking the road and he's looking to steal a car, he's looking in the windows, he's looking to see if somebody left the door open, he's looking for the keys, and then he finds one, right? You can call that person a thief. Does that make sense, y'all? You could call that person a thief because he's looking to take what doesn't belong to him. That's a thief. That's in the proper context. But now you have a police officer who shows up at a robbery, right? And there's a shootout, and somebody the perpetrators jump in a car and they roll, and all the police got is a civilian with a car. He says, "Can I use your car?" And he takes it and he chases the perpetrator. Is the policeman a thief? No, he's not a thief. He's utilizing what he can use to stop the perpetrators. See, so you can call one a thief, but not the other one. See, so you have two. It depends on the context of the situation. This is the same with the bottomless pit. It depends on the context of the situation. So first, let's look at it in Revelation where we see it, and we're going to look at it in a couple places in Revelation. Then we'll go and look at it because this beast of Revelation 13 is coming out of the bottomless pit. Now, in the Bible, there are contexts for the word beast. If you recall, the Father's throne is carried by 4 beasts. But those are not the same beasts of Revelation 13. And so you have to understand the context in which beast is used. Y'all catching me so far? I don't want to confuse everybody. I'm trying my best to take my time so that we make it as clear and as plain as possible for everybody involved. Okay. So we're trying to do that. So let's look at where we already been in Revelation chapter 11 when it mentions this beast coming out of a bottomless pit who killed the 2 witnesses. Okay. So let's take a look at that. Revelation chapter 11. And we're going to start at verse 7. Revelation chapter 11. In fact, all we need is verse 7. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 7. It says, "And when they shall have finished their testimony," that means they completed their work of bearing witness. When they finished, it said, "The beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them." So in this context, we have 2 witnesses for the Father. And an entity called a beast rises up out of a place called the bottomless pit and makes war with the Father's witnesses to kill them. Now, just in the basic context of what we just read, you and I can clearly understand that whoever this beast is and whatever place he comes from is not of the Father. Does that make sense? Because they're attacking the Father's 2 witnesses. Does that make sense, y'all? So we know already This is coming from the dark side. This is coming from Asatan. This is coming from the enemy of righteousness. Because what do? It makes war against the two witnesses of the Father. So we know whatever it is, it's against the Father. Okay. All right. And it said the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit. So let's go back again and let's look at Revelation 9. This is the first place in Revelation that mentions the bottomless pit. Revelation chapter 9, let's begin at verse 1 and 2. Revelation chapter 9, which we fingered to be Islam. And let's take a look at Revelation. It's not, I'm going to warn y'all. Let me give you the disclaimer. Not everybody's going to like what we're going to say. I'm just going to warn them, just in case, just for people to know, okay? People ain't going to like it. People get real touchy with religion. A couple of things you don't want to discuss openly in public: politics and religion. You know that. Talk about religion, and so you kind of know people gonna get touchy. All right. Revelation chapter 9, verse 1 and 2. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. A star fall from heaven. And we just read in Revelation 12, Asatan drew with his tail a third of the stars of heaven, which includes himself. Okay, so here we have a star fall from heaven. That is Asatan. And to him was given the key of a bottomless pit, which we already seen from our last verse. This is anti-Father Yah, anti-Messiah, or as they would say, anti-Christ. Right? Does that make sense? So whatever this bottomless pit is, we know it's on the dark side. We know that Asatan has power over this bottomless pit. Okay. So entities that are involved with this are against our God, against us. Then if they're against our God, they're against us. Okay. All right. Revelation chapter 17, which we haven't gotten to yet, but for the purposes of what we're studying here, let's take a look. Revelation chapter 17. I'm going to look at from verse 7 and verse 8. Revelation chapter 17, verse 7 and verse 8. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell in the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So again, this beast that the whore is riding shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. And we already have read that the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall attack the two witnesses and kill them and make war with them. Okay. And then we saw that the one that had the key to the bottomless pit was able to unlock it and send out locusts. See, if you notice in Revelation 9, it did not say, look what it said in Revelation chapter 9. It says, and he opened, verse 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke. So a beast did not come out of that one. Smoke came out, and locusts came out, but it was no beast. You caught that. Okay, so we're going to talk about that more. But so far, what do we got? Asatan has the key to the bottomless pit, at least for now. Okay, he has entities that arise out of that pit. Those entities attack people of the Most High and make war against them. Okay, we've seen that already. That's just what Revelation told us. Okay, now pit. When you look up the word pit in the Hebrew, okay, when you look up the word pit in the Hebrew. It says abyss. Actually, here we're looking it up in the Greek. We're not even looking it up in the Hebrew. We're looking it up in the Greek. And in the Greek, because it's the New Testament, right? So when you're looking at the Greek and you look up the word pit, you're seeing abyss. Abyss. It's called an abyss. Now, let me just look the word up so I can tell you exactly what it says here. G12. Abusos. Depthless. That is abyss, deep, pit. Okay, a variation. Depthless, that is abyss, that is deep, that is pit. So it's a deep, it's an abyss, it's represented by an abyss, is represented by the word deep. So we have a pit that's represented by the word deep and an abyss. So far, that's what it says in the Greek for pit. And if you recall, in fact, let's take a look at it. Messiah came and ran into these. He asked somebody what was their name, remember? And they said Legion, because we are many. Remember that? And then they asked him not to send them. They asked him, please don't send us to the pit. Okay, please don't send this in the book of Luke. Let me find that. Book of Luke. Actually, it was Luke 8:31. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep. And that, again, is the same word. It is the word abyss. It is the word pit. It is the word deep. So he said, please, they begged the Messiah, don't send us into the abyss. So there's a place called an abyss. Now, what is this place called an abyss? Okay, so first, let's go again. And this is what we've been talking about. The book of Revelation is a compilation of Hebrew Israelite prophets from the Old Testament. Right? Although you got Paul and you got John and you got them too, but all of them are getting their information from the Old Testament. Okay, so now let's go into the Old Testament and look up pit and look up abyss or deep. Right? Does that make sense, y'all? Everybody with me so far? And then let's let it tell us what these things represent. Okay? So far, so good, everybody? Okay, cool. All right, so now let's go to the book of Genesis, because the first time you see it is in Genesis chapter 2. Okay? Genesis chapter 2. And that is, it says, Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. I'm sorry. It's Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. Let's take a look. It says, and in verse 2. Let's start from verse 1. In the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. So here, deep is also an abyss, tahom. It's an abyss, deep as in water, as in an abyss. So the sea is also a form of an abyss. Does that make sense? It's a form, it's deep. And it's the same word that's used when you get to Genesis chapter, I think it's 6 or 5, no, 7. It says, let's see. It says the fountains of the great deep were opened up, right? Let me see. Let me see. Oh man, I'm trying to find it. Let me look it up. Let me see. It's easy. I can find it this way. Deep. And we're looking at. Okay, it's Genesis chapter 7, verse 11. In the 600th year, Genesis 7:11 of Noah's life, in the second month, in the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up. And again, that word is abyss. Okay, so one form of pit is of an abyss is the great deep of the ocean. Okay, does that make sense, y'all? Everybody got me so far? So one form of an abyss is the great deep of the ocean. Y'all follow me there? Testing 1, 2, 3. I want to make sure we're there. All right. Now let's look at let's look at pit, because also pit is an abyss. Let's take a look in Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14, and we'll look at pit. And Isaiah chapter 14 will tell us, yep, yet that verse, this is Isaiah 14. Let's read it in context. Isaiah 14, going to start at verse 12 and go down to verse 15. Okay, Isaiah 14 from verse 12 to verse 15 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit." Now, pit here is a dungeon, a prison, a hole. Okay, which in context, we know that pit here is a grave, right? So if you look at pit in this context, David uses this also, he uses this term as well in the Psalms. He uses the word pit. He says, David says in Psalm 28:1, "Unto thee will I cry, my rock. Be not silent to me, lest thou, if thou be silent to me, I become like them that go down to the pit." See, that is the grave. So you have two contexts here, the sea and the grave. You have two contexts, the sea, the deep of the ocean, and the grave. Okay? Y'all got me so far? So far, so good? So you have the sea and you have the grave for pit or deep. All right? So you have both of those. Now, watch this. Let's go to Daniel. And let's get witness from Daniel as well as Isaiah on this thing. And this is Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel 7. And let's look at Daniel 7. Again, we're talking about pit, deep, abyss. Okay? Pit, deep, abyss. All of that. Okay, so let's take a look. Daniel chapter 7. And verse 1. Actually, verse 1 and 2. "In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea." Verse 3. "And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another." So now he saw the sea, and he said beasts came up out the sea. Okay, and he said they were diverse one from another. But the point is, they came up out the sea. Again, the sea is also the deep, also the abyss. So you can say these 4 beasts in the New Testament context came out of the bottomless pit. Does that make sense, y'all? They came out of the bottomless pit. These great beasts came out of the bottomless pit. Now, this is again the difference between beasts of the Father and beasts of the enemy. The enemy's beasts come out of the sea. The Father's beasts are beside his throne. So when he's talking about there were 4 beasts and there were 24 elders, you know that's the Father's. But when you see a beast coming out of the abyss, that belongs to us. Now, let's take it a step further while we're in Daniel chapter 7. In Daniel, we're going to get to the second witness I told you in Isaiah in a minute, but in Daniel chapter 7, notice what Daniel asked about the beast too. And notice what he said. Daniel chapter 7, and I'm going to start at verse 15 and go down to verse 17. Okay, Daniel chapter 7 from verse 15 to verse 17. "I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit and in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, or the translation is also kingdoms that shall arise out of the earth. So when the devil's beasts are arising, the Bible indicates they arise out of the earth. They arise out of the bottomless pit, which is the devil's kingdom on the earth. Does that make sense, y'all? So you got the grave and you got the sea. When it arrives, when a beast rises up out of the sea, and look, it said with winds, that means strife. See, wind also has multiple. Wind could be the Father's Spirit, but in the context of what we're talking about here, this is not the Father's Spirit. This is strife. This is, war. And so the devil's beast or his kingdoms arise out of the earth, out of the pit of the sea, out of the confusion, out of war. Okay, so now you have two. You have the grave context, and you have the sea, which represents, well, let's get something solid on that in Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah chapter 60, our second witness on this. Isaiah chapter 60, let's go from verse 1. Isaiah chapter 60, from verse 1 down to verse 5. Isaiah chapter 60, verses 1 to 5. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. That is, the people of the earth will be covered in gross darkness. Okay, but Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. What is that, brethren? What is the Father's glory seen on thee, being Israel? What is the Father's glory seen on Israel? What is his glory? He said, darkness covers the people of the earth, but the Father's glory shall be seen upon Israel. What is that? That is his spirit. That is the latter rain power. That's right. That is his light. Don Hines is not wrong. It is light, but it's in the form of the Father's spirit. Does that make sense, brethren? So now the people are in darkness, spiritual darkness, but the Father's light is seen on his chosen. That is the latter rain power of the spirit. That is the seal on the foreheads of the 144,000. That is said, his spirit shall be seen upon thee. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, gross darkness the people, but Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And again, Ezekiel also testifies when the Father says through him, I shall be sanctified in you before the eyes of the Gentiles. See, he said, they don't know I am Yahweh when I am sanctified in you in their eyes. So they're going to see. That's why I say we may not have these platforms forever, but that's all good because the revolution will not be televised. The Father's spirit is going to be seen on us, and they will know there's something about us. Whereas today, you might say something in the street, nobody pay no attention. But when the Father's spirit is sealing you and his light arises on you, you walk out in the street, everybody's paying attention. Just like John the Baptist. Nobody would care about some dude dressed in camel's hair in the wilderness, except the Father's spirit was seen on him. And he drew the people. Okay, same thing. I love how the Bible is uniform. It all makes sense when you read the whole thing, see? So now, verse 3, notice what it says here. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together. They come to thee. Thy sons shall come from far, and thy daughters shall be nursed at thy side. Thou shalt see and flow together. Thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee. So the sea represents the forces of the Gentiles. So now let's put it all together. The abyss, the sea, the pit represents either death or the forces of the Gentiles. And you can see it in its context. Here, it's obviously telling you the sea represents a peoples that's coming out of the Gentile system or the Gentile kingdom. Does that make sense, yo? So you got that, and then you got the four kingdoms of the earth that put hands on Israel, and they said these are the beasts, and they come out of striving upon the great sea. So you have a system of government that is a result of Gentiles fighting each other over power on this earth. Y'all got that? Then, of course, there's the context of the pit where the Bible said that the angel came down with a great chain in his hand, and he took the key of the bottomless pit from the devil and put him in there and bound him 1,000 years. That's a grave. That's a grave. He's not putting him in the sea. See, that's a grave. He's holding him in the grave for 1,000 years. Okay, you're catching that? See, so it depends on the context. In the context of Revelation 11, that beast that rises up out of the bottomless pit is the Babylonian system. It's the government system that's run by the devil. And he goes against Father Yah's witnesses to kill them, to make war with them. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. So the devil doesn't himself put his hands on anybody, but he uses his system to do the work. Does that make sense, y'all? The devil himself don't put his hands on nobody, but he uses the system that he developed to do the dirty work. Just like the Father himself uses his people and his spirit to do his work. These are the rules of the game, the rules of engagement. Okay? So the devil's got his system of government, the Father's got his system of government, and he's got his representatives, and the devil's got his representatives. So when you see a beast, and here we go, Revelation chapter 13. Now with all that in mind, let's put it together and go to Revelation chapter 13, because it's very important now that we have the background of sea, of pit, of abyss, and beast. We could look at Revelation chapter 13. Now, if we didn't do all this and you just saw beast in Revelation 13, you would know, and I would know, what the heck is this, right? We would know, but now we have studied witnesses, Genesis, which is Moses. We've looked at Isaiah. We've looked at Daniel. We've looked at Psalms and David, and we've got witnesses to these things. Therefore, we can put these witnesses together and understand what the Father's teaching us in his word. Okay? Praise the Most High. Okay. That's right. So you talk about a United Nations. Is that the Father's? Does the Father have a United Nations on this earth right now? Are they his? I mean, who controls the United Nations? I mean, they could technically say, it's the UN Council, but come on, let's be real. The United States and Rome control the United Nations. For example, very recently, and you could look this up yourself, there was a vote. There's always a vote every year to relieve the sanctions or remove the sanctions from the nation of Cuba. Cuba has been under sanctions all of our lifetimes. Okay? And the only two nations that voted no. There was 100-something nations said, yeah, remove the sanctions. 2 nations voted no. And just these 2 nations, one vote each, had enough power to say, we're not removing the sanctions. That was the United States and the state of Israel. The only 2 nations in the world that said, keep the sanctions. And guess what? The sanctions are in place. That's why when you look at Cuba, you see cars from the 1950s, old cars, old buildings, because they got sanctions. They can't trade openly with other nations. Trade helps nations get rich because you can send your stuff out, what you have in abundance. In Cuba's case, it's sugar. You can send sugar out, molasses, sugar, stuff to make liquor, stuff to make Courvoisier and all that. You can send all that out and you can get back other stuff, but they're blocking the nations from doing business with Cuba. They're keeping them under sanctions. Okay. And only a couple of nations were doing business with Cuba. Venezuela under Hugo Chavez, and you know what happened to him. And then, of course, there's Russia that still do business with Cuba. Maybe Iran or something like that. But that's it. The reason they have the sanctions is because Cuba started a revolution and it wasn't a democracy. And so the United States tried to squash it, especially since Cuba was and the United States considered enemies, and Cuba's only 90 miles from the U.S. shoreline. Then, Kennedy tried to attack and take over Cuba because Cuba used to be run by the mob, okay? But then Castro came and kicked all the mob out and took all the assets of the wealthy, which were mostly children of Yafet in Cuba, and they came to Florida, okay? They came to Florida first, and then Cuba had Castro, it was interesting, who took the Hebrews and started his revolution, the Hebrews in Cuba. Now, you know why? There's hatred. So that's why you got the sanctions. And so the United States has influenced the whole world to not do business with Cuba. Okay. And so you had the whole UN saying, let's end this sanction stuff, man. That stuff is played out. And U.S. and State of Israel said, oh, no. Keep them sanctions in place. I illustrate that to show you the power of the United States. Well, this is the thing, and you bring up a good point. I'm only asking, United States be different from the others? No, the United Nations is just a subset. See, the people in control, right, are the ones that are the major beasts, right? So, for example, Rome is in control. That's the beast. But then you have another beast that rises up. That's the U.S. So the United Nations is a subset of these two powers. Because, again, these two powers tell the UN what they're going to do. Then you have another one, a group called the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was started after World War II. And even though it's supposed to represent the allies from World War II, the U.S. runs that thing. Okay? That beast runs everything. And that's why Revelation 13 becomes vitally important, because it shows you the order of things. See, it doesn't show the world. And let's remember, the earth will not understand what we're talking about. They will not even believe what we're talking about. But the message is not for them. The message is for us. Okay? The message is not for them. This is the revelation of the Messiah, which Father gave to him to show unto his servants. So what we're reading, the majority of earth will not only not know, if you were to share it with them, you're casting pearls before swine, because they won't believe it. Now, you and I just spent, most of this time looking up pit, sea, deep, right? We looked up those words. We looked up where is context in the word, and the pit is a grave, it's an abyss, and also the deep is an abyss. And we saw that in Asatan's kingdom, strife and war created the victorious kingdoms that he has, or whatever kingdoms he has ruled. And so we saw 4 rise up out of the sea. Okay. And we saw the sea represents the forces of the Gentiles. Okay. So we saw all that in the word, right? So we went through all that just so that we can get here. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 1. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Thank you, Mark. That's exactly right. Brother Mark. That's right. He said, his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And again, what is he talking about? What is Brother Mark talking about? What is he quoting? He's quoting Daniel. Okay, he's quoting Daniel, which we're going to see another form of it, another witness of that right here in Revelation chapter 13. So let's take a look at Revelation 13, verse 1 and 2. And please look for the sea and look for where the power and authority comes from. As Brother Mark just mentioned from Daniel, this is going to be similar. It's another witness, actually. So let's go. Revelation 13, verse 1. Notice again, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Now, who is this beast? Put it this way. This beast rises up out of the sea. Is this a Hebrew beast? Is this a Hebrew Israelite beast? I mean, who is this beast? I mean, is it a Hebrew Israelite or is it Gentiles? I mean, who is it? Well, it's telling you, rising up out of the sea, just like Daniel. So this is Satans. So this is rising up out of the bottomless pit. Okay? Y'all got me so far? So this is coming up out of the bottomless pit. It's the forces of the Gentiles coming up out of the bottomless pit. Okay? Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. We're going to go through that. Don't worry about it. And upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So blasphemy is somebody trying to be the Most High. You remember what they told Messiah? The friends of the man was on the roof. The man was palsy, right? He was crippled. And they opened up the roof and they let him down. You remember Mark chapter 2? They let him down through the roof. And Messiah says, son, thy sins be forgiven thee. And they said, who is this man that blasphemes? Making him, that means only God can forgive sin, because they say he's making himself into the Most High. That's blasphemy. So blasphemy is when men claim power or authority that you could only give to the Father. Messiah wasn't blaspheming because he said, the Father sent me to do this. Anybody else, though? Right? So when man does it, and especially we know Satan is doing it, it's blasphemy. So one thing we know about this beast, it's a religious power because it's claiming power that only belongs to the Father. It also goes with what we read about Satan. This claim is coming from him. And he said, I will be like the Most High. Isn't that what he said? So now we have a power, a religious power that's claiming power and authority can only be given by the Father. Okay, and it's blasphemous. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. He shall be mighty. Let's compare that to what Brother Mark shared with us in Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8, verse 24. Actually, let me look at verse 23 and 24. Okay, Daniel chapter 23, 24, and 25. Daniel chapter 8, but it's verse 24 that we're focusing on. Daniel chapter 8, verse 23, 24, and 25. This is what Brother Mark just quoted to us. Notice what it says. In the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, right now, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty. Notice what it says, but not by his own power. And notice what we just read in Revelation. And the dragon gives him power, seat, and authority. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So the kingdoms of this world, which is the system of Babylon, are run by the dragon. Should we be surprised at all of the stuff you see going on in terms of child rape, child pornography, prostitution, human trafficking, drug trafficking, corruption? Should you be surprised when you see that? Because who is running this kingdom? Who's in charge? In the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also, he shall cause craft, that is deceit, to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So this king rules by craft or deceit. And it makes perfect sense because the devil is a liar. He deceives the whole world. Okay. And it said he shall destroy wonderfully. Now, when you look at the powers of Rome, the man comes with his white uniform on. Do you actually see him ever raise his hand against anybody? Have you actually ever seen him give any orders to kill anybody? Have you actually ever seen him start war? Because you know the Vatican is a nation. Y'all know that, right? The Vatican City is a nation, literally a nation, legit nation, smallest nation on the earth, but it's a nation. That's why it's the little horn, but it's a nation. Okay, yeah, the Vatican is a nation. Go look it up. Look up Vatican City, and it's a nation. That's why the Pope has this power. He is the only person on planet Earth that is the head of a religious entity that's worldwide, and he's also the head of a nation. There's nobody else. There's nobody else. Okay. See, somebody said, well, what about Islam? Who is the head of Islam? The head of Islam is Muhammad. He's dead. So you might have followers of Islam that run nations, but this man is this office, whoever's occupying it, is the head of the Catholic Church on many hundreds of millions or whatever there are. And he's the head of his nation. Okay, he's the head of his nation. He has diplomats. He sends out diplomats. That's why every U.S. president goes to the Vatican. Why do you think Barack Obama, George Bush, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, they all visit the Vatican as heads of state? They all visit the Vatican as heads of state because the Vatican is a country. Okay? So notice what it says about him, though. He shall destroy wonderfully. So if he himself is not destroying anything, how does he destroy wonderfully? How does he do that? How does he destroy without having any weapons himself? How does he destroy without having any military himself? The Vatican has some guards, but they don't have no tanks. They don't have no bombs. They don't have no planes. How do they do it then? That's right, Jacoba. He has puppets. He pulls the string. So even though he himself doesn't have any weapons, he can use weapons of other nations. He can use weapons of nations that he controls. Does that make sense, y'all? So he's the de facto leader of a country of the Vatican, and by having being the leader of his own country and his own religion, he has people that are faithful to him on the religious side all over the world and all over the earth in terms of powerful positions. And again, we like to use the Supreme Court of the United States. There are 9 Supreme Court justices. At least 6 of them are Roman Catholic, and most of those are Jesuit trained Roman Catholics. And you can just look it up yourself. Go look up religion of the Supreme Court. It's open. Everybody sees it. So in other words, why do I bring that up? Well, let me ask you. You working in Babylon, like Daniel. You going to be faithful to the Father, or you going to be faithful to Babylon? They told Daniel in Babylon, you can't pray no more. Did it stop him from praying? See? So even though he's in Babylon, he still prayed to his Father. They told the 3 Hebrews, you can't worship your God, or you can, but you better worship this statue too. And they said no. So if you are faithful to Rome, how could you be faithful to the United States if there's a situation where there is a conflict between the agenda that Rome wants and the agenda that the United States wants? That's why they got everybody fooled, and they're talking about conservative versus liberal. Both sides are controlled by Rome, but the conservative side, man, they dominate the Supreme Court, and Rome dominates them. And that's just typical of the whole system. You will find this no matter what part of the system you go into. Either it's Ashkenazis or it's Roman Catholics. And it doesn't matter because Ashkenazis are controlled by Rome. That's exactly right, Diamond. Okay, so you have this power that seems to be crafty, by peace shall destroy many. Yet he has his operatives that do exactly what he commands them. That is why you can have 100 countries say, let's lift the sanctions on Cuba. But you have two that say no. And guess what the answer is? No. See, people can talk all they want. African nations can talk about their independence and forming their union and all of this. It don't matter, man. The Bible, because the Bible is true. The word of the Father is true. You're not going to be able to overcome. What do you say, Brother Mark? What we say? Prophecies against you. You're never going to be independent. Prophecies against you. The Bible said that the little horn shall subdue the whole earth, brethren. And it said they shall divide the land for gain. That's exactly what you got right now. Okay? And you're not going to overcome that. What's going to overcome it is not us, not any system we develop. It's the Father. The Father and the Messiah are going to overcome and overthrow this system. Okay? We're not going to do it. The Father going to do it. And he's going to send Messiah as our captain to do it. Yes, he's coming out the sky. Yes, he is. Very shortly. Oh, you don't believe me? That's cool. They didn't believe there was going to be a flood either. But that's why you got the Grand Canyon out there. Do you know the Grand Canyon got fish in the walls, thousands of feet, hundreds of feet in the air? How do they get fish in the walls, hundreds of feet in the air? How do you get bones of animals on top of the tallest mountains on the earth? Yeah, there was a flood. And yeah, Messiah is going to return. And yeah, he's going to overthrow this kingdom. So this beast that rises up out the sea, so far what we know is Asatan's kingdom. Asatan gives it power, seat, and authority. Okay, and it's coming out the sea. That means it's coming from among the Gentiles. It's coming from among the nations, from the Gentiles. And of course, let's take it a step further. It's not only coming from among the Gentiles, but let's finger this. You ready? It's coming from the children of Yafet. Yes? Y'all catching that? It's coming from the children of Yafet. How do we know that? How do we know that? Because the four kingdoms that Daniel saw, the first one was Ham, Babylon, but the next three, including the last one, talking about Babylon, Medes and the Persians, Medes, Russians, Greece, Rome. So the beasts that rise up out of the sea are skirmishes among the Gentiles, particularly, specifically from the children of Yafet. We know this is not African nations. This religious power that rules the whole earth is from the children of Yafet. Therefore, let's take it even further. You ready? So in the last days of the history of Babylon, Mystery Babylon, is under control and built for and by the children of Yafet. And all of us are under command to be obedient. Okay? Gog and Magog. That's right. Children of Yafet. See? So you shouldn't be surprised. You can look out and see it. It's not like, you can see it. Just yesterday, here in Florida, a sheriff came to the podium to make an announcement. They found a young woman, 30 years old, dead. She was dead, and they said they investigated this because not only was she dead of a drug overdose, fentanyl, but she was dumped in an alley. And the sheriff looked so sad. And he said, it's a shame that the drugs are coming and they've caused people to devalue human life so much that this young woman was dead. Come to find out, she had overdosed in a hotel a few blocks away, and she was with a dude who was smoking crack. She was shooting up fentanyl. She died. He was knocked out from the crack, woke up and saw her dead in his room, and him and his buddy moved her body to the hotel, from the hotel to the alley, because they didn't want to be tied to this. And the sheriff was so sad. He was saying, man, human life is devalued. Now, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, were they saying that when crack was destroying Hebrews? Were they saying that when they created the 3-strike law? When the crack was turning 9-year-old little Hebrew girls into whores? Were they saying that? No, but these three are 3 children of Yafet. 3 children of Yafet. And he was so sad. But when we were going through this, let's get tough on crime. Let's make a war on drugs. They ain't talking that now. Now, because it's children of Yafet, these poor people, it's a shame that human life is so devalued. That gives you the power. That shows you right there who has the power on the earth. Who creates the power that says this people are valuable, these are not. You can see it. There is a difference. There is a pecking order. There is a caste system. And the children of Yafet are favored in this caste system. The children of Yafet are favored. Okay, period. And that's Bible prophecy. We just saw it. The beast that rises up out the sea with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, that looks like a lion, a leopard, and it says a lion, a leopard, and a bear, which we're going to talk about the next session. But now we understand bottomless pit. This beast rises up out of the form of the bottomless pit, which is the depth of the sea, the abyss, which represents a beast or a kingdom or a system, which we know to be Babylon, is rised up out of the devil's world. That's what we know so far. Okay? And we understand that our Satan is going to be overthrown by Messiah. First time Messiah came to take sin off his people. And he's continuing to do that. But when he come back the next time, ain't going to be no peaceful transition of power. I tell you that right now. We all know that our cousin not coming back for no peaceful transition of power. Oh, they thought January 6th was something? Oh, they thought the Revolutionary War was something? You ain't seen revolution yet. Praise the Most High. So we're going to come back. It's now 11:35 my time in the East. We're going to come back around 12:15, and we're going to continue our study here in Revelation 13. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, family.